Hey, welcome back. Episode 4, second one of the day. MassTransit going to be going into more of the routing slip stuff today. In the previous episode, we added the event handling and we made it so that we're processing the request from the original website in through the routing slip and not just immediately responding. Going to pick up where we're left off from episode 3. So if you haven't watched episode 3, definitely watch that one. If you're just here to enjoy the live content, great, good to have you. It's always fun to have a lot of people on the channel. We've been hitting some good numbers the last 2 days, so it's good. If you're watching on YouTube, definitely take a moment. If you aren't subscribed, to subscribe. The videos get uploaded there right after they're published on Twitch or produced on Twitch. And it doesn't cost you anything. It just gives me some good numbers and makes me feel good, and fake internet points, all that stuff. So I wanted to go into, for this episode, dealing with, whoa, what's that? Oh, no, it's not what I wanted. Where's my other notes? There they are, okay. I wanted to go into the dealing with faults and compensation. And I felt like we kind of rushed a couple things in the last episode, and we kind of got sideways digging into the proxy, but I wanted to make sure that we were handling things correctly. We're really just doing what the proxy's doing, and we'll likely refactor that at some point. But I want to keep it explicit for now so that you can look through the sample without having to jump through the MassTransit source code. Before I go too much further, I need to do a quick check-in for episode 3 so that we keep the trend going of having commits for each episode. Yeah, I literally took a 10-minute break and got right back into this. So what we want to do now is we want to introduce faults. So the fault that I want to introduce is we go to dress the burger and for whatever reason we're out of one of the condiments, so we can't fulfill the order they requested. It's trivial and silly, but it's something I think we can easily understand. So we're going to look at the arguments that we have, and no, not those arguments, this argument. Or let's just say we're out of lettuce. Since we already have lettuce in there, we'll just say that if we don't have lettuce, and we're going to throw an exception that we can't fulfill the burger request. So we're going to say dressing the burger, and we'll add a nice little log statement. We'll add lettuce to the log so that we know if we requested it, it's there. And then we will say, we'll do a quick argument check and say, if they've asked for lettuce, we're going to throw an exception. Should we throw an exception? Sure, let's just throw an exception, and we will call this just something silly like no lettuce available. Otherwise, we'll dress the burger as we were before. Great. This is going to cause this activity to fault when we're generating it. Now, because I don't even know if we're necessarily setting this when we build the routing slip. So let's go back to that consumer and look at what we're doing. When we build the routing slip, we're saying, okay, so we have lettuce currently hard-coded to true. So we're going to need to drag this up for our case here, and we're going to have to start fleshing out this submit order message a little bit. Right now, we're just putting an order ID, but for now, we're just going to put lettuce on here, whether or not they want lettuce. We're just going to drag this up so that in the UI, we can say whether lettuce is included or not. Now let's go see where we submit that. That's in the order controller. And this is like where it's turtles all the way down kind of thing, is we're going to have to look at our order model so we can actually put whether they want lettuce or not. I can't think of a model validator for that. I don't think we really need one. And now I'm going to have to pass that lettuce into the, oh, no, not there. Up here. I'm going to have to pass the lettuce. Oh, well, actually, I can just use my Roslyn analyzer to add the missing property. That weirds me out that it uses the real name. And we're going to pass order.lettuce. Get rid of the name. And good. So now we're able, within our UI, to specify whether or not we want lettuce. So we can conditionally make this pass or fail. So let's go here. We get the order response accepted. If we get a fault, We probably want to respond with a different order model, but for now we'll just let the exception throw so we can see it come through. And in the submit order consumer, we now have to pass context.message.lettuce. Do they want lettuce? Yes or no? And we'll remove the redundant name and we're good to go. This will now, I think we have all the way down that we're passing that information down. So let's run this and see what happens. Well, we should see an update, an additional option in our simulator within Swagger's UI, where we can say that we don't want the burger, we want the burger with lettuce. Okay, yeah, lettuce is true. Awesome, we're able to do it. So let's say try it out. And first let's make sure we didn't break anything. So we'll say lettuce false and make sure that we didn't break anything. So we're gonna run this through. We're gonna grill the burger, which takes 5 seconds. And then we're going to dress the burger. Everything looks good, and we had a successful response. Our burger's good to go. So everything works as it did before. Now let's cancel this and say try it out again. I don't know if it generates a new GUID for each request, so I'm just going to change that to like an E, just so it's unique. Now I'm going to do this. I'm grilling the burger. And what's going on? We got some problems. We got a nice nasty exception. It looks pretty gnarly. What do we have in here? The fork joint contract submit order request faulted. No lettuce available at request client, which, I mean, seriously, how cool of an error message is no lettuce available? That's just awesome. But we could handle that better in the controller, but we're able to see the exception. We got the error back. We got the routing slip faulted, so we proved that our consumer's handling of the routing slip faulted worked because it did complete the request and pass that exception information back to us. So we've tested now the fault path of the activity. Now, the log messages here are pretty long, and what happens when we do this is that activity throws an exception, the request, the routing slip or courier components that run the host on the configured endpoint is going to catch that exception. It's going to package that up. And it actually looks at the itinerary to see if there are any things that need to be compensated, any previous activities. Well, we know that in the application we've built, there aren't any activities that currently compensate. So we want to fix that. We want to go back and think about that because we're a business and we just grilled a burger. So we have a burger patty, possibly with cheese, sitting there that doesn't have a customer for it. And currently we aren't tracking inventory, but we're going to have to add a little inventory check because I think it will definitely help demonstrate why compensation would be important. Because if I have this hot patty, I should be able to move that back to the grill, keep it warm, so that when the next order comes in, I can deliver that already cooked patty and save some time on the delivery of this next order. And let's face it, temperature and stuff really don't matter because if you're in the drive-thru, you're going to get screwed anyway. So you're going to get hopefully the burger you ordered is probably not going to be the temperature you wanted, but you're going to be home before the time you realize that you didn't get what you ordered, it wasn't cooked exactly right, and you're not going to care because you're home. You're going to put it in the microwave just like they were going to do anyway and make it back to normal. So yes, what Leo wants, Leo gets. Anybody who's seen Lethal Weapon, which is probably nobody but like 3, know the old drive-through skit from that. But I won't go into the super details on it, but yes, it's all about the drive-through. So what we're going to do here, oh, it was Lethal Weapon 2, my bad. That's right, because Leo was in Lethal Weapon 2. Joe Pesci, what an actor. So let's revisit the grill burger activity. And if you remember when we created this, all we do is we create a patty and off we go with it. We don't do a whole lot, nothing really to get super excited about. And we complete and we add that patty to the routing slip. So let's keep track of the fact that we grilled this burger now and add a compensating component to this. So to do that, we have to change our activity from an execute activity to just an activity. We also have to create an additional type called, and I'm just going to call it, to stay consistent with the naming, I'm going to call it grill burger log. And what this is this is the compensation log that's included with the with the message, with the activity being completed. So when the activity completes successfully, it's going to add this log to the compensation log within the routing slip. Remember, the network is state. Our data is being tracked within the routing slip. So those variables and the different components of that message type include places to store things like a compensation log. And we can put whatever we want in here. We could put like the weight and the temperature and the cheese and the details with the burger. If we were doing some sort of database transaction or communicating with an external system, we would keep track of like reference numbers or authorization codes. So if we needed to like reverse an authorization, anything you would want that you would need to roll back or compensate, and not roll back because there is no rollback, but to compensate for this transaction would be written into this log. So for our case, I'm just going to copy the weight, temperature, and cheese. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail on this because it's always specific to the activity type. And then I'm going to add that argument type to the log for the activity. Now, I have to add a new method to support this, which is the compensate method. And the compensate method is going to be called by the runtime when a subsequent activity in the routing slip faults, and I've now asked to, and I've added something to the compensation log. So we're gonna just do nothing right now because we don't really care yet. But we're gonna flesh this out as we go. I actually have to return a type, so I'm going to return context.compensated and just say, yeah, everything's great. We're all good here. It is possible to fail a compensation, and MassTransit treats that separately. It actually fails the compensation, and basically that's something that you need to handle at a developer perspective, because if it fails to compensate something, it may need some sort of user interaction. So that's something that it just basically notifies you that, hey, I couldn't compensate this. Here's the routing slip. Here's the state it's in. Go figure it out. But we're not going to deal with that for now because it rarely happens unless you have a system issue, and retries usually clean that up. For now, all I'm going to do is just say I'm not going to compensate anything. And this won't be called until I actually log one of those log types. So I am going to now, where I call completed with variables, I also can pass this with grillburger log. And I think I can pass two types in here now. So when I say completed with variables, there's two arguments that it takes. One is the log values and one is the variables. So these are two anonymous objects that I can pass. The new patty is the variables. I'm adding the patty to there. And then the values that I want to put into my log, I'm going to pass context.arguments.temperature, weight, and cheese. Because I'm going to log what that patty had on it. So if it gets sent back to me, I know what that patty had on it. And now I'm able to say, okay, well, I can put this patty back in inventory, theoretically. To keep track of the patty, I'm going to need some sort of inventory tool. So time to create the world's greatest inventory tool. Static, read-only, concurrent bag, burger patty, inventory. You can't beat a static for a demonstration. Okay, great. We now have, oh yes, I don't have to do that anymore. Isn't that so pretty? Okay. Now what I want to do is I want to put this burger back in inventory if it's compensated. So if I actually get compensate called, that log will be passed to me. So in reality, I'm just going to put the patty in there. And I'm going to say, okay, well, inventory.add the patty. Boom, I now get the patty. Awesome. I should probably add some initializers to the burger patty. So let's add some properties to the burger patty. Where's our grill burger arguments? We got weight, temperature, and cheese. Let's put those in here. Let's put, I think we have to put these as public. I think we have to give them initializers because we're using a record type. Question in the chat, could we pull the patty from the log. I mean, technically, in a physical sense, we are. We can't pull it from the log because we didn't add it to the log. And even if we did, I mean, again, it's still going to be a deserialized type. I think if we add it to the variables, it will show up there and we can pull it out that way. We'll try that. For now, I'm going to add these properties to the burger patty because I want to add up here when I create it, I want to copy that information. I want to say weight equals context.arguments.weight. I'm just going to copy these values. Temperature equals context arguments temperature. And cheese equals context.arguments.cheese. Great. I've created the burger patty that I added. I guess I could probably do that. Well, we're going to try it this way first because this is the way I've thought about it. And we're going to add the patty to there. Here, I'm just going to create the patty again. I'm just going to recreate it to put it back in inventory because all my database really is doing is describing it. This is called log in the log. And then adding that to inventory. And okay, cool. Awesome. Great. We'll see if we can do this. And we'll put a log statement in here so that we can say that we're putting it back so we can see the track it. Putting burger back in inventory. I don't care about the order ID. I'm not going to draw that out right now. Because I know I only have one, and we're just whatever, just so I know that it happened. Okay, so now I'm completing with variables, I'm adding the log statement, I'm putting the patty into the variables, and great. So, because I want to know that the log has the correct weight of the burger, because I think that's, do I specify the weight? I'm pretty sure I do, in the consumer. Yep, I specify the weight as ½ pound. So let's run this and see what happens now. Gonna fire everything up. Oh, we have a new queue. Let's go look at RabbitMQ. Looks like we got a new queue. Comments in the chat. I'll jump to those in a second. So we have a new queue here called grillburger-compensate. And the grillburger-compensate queue, it should have a single consumer on it. Yep, it's the same consumer that we had for the compensation side of that routing slip host. And it's followed my naming thing because I put my custom namer in, so that's legit. Everything's cool there. If I go to the Swagger UI and I say I want to try it out, let's try it with lettuce false first because we want to make sure everything works the way it did before. So we will jump this over here. How did that get dropped out of there? I don't want that there. I don't want that there. Okay. All right, it looks like we processed the order successfully. We got our burger. Everything was legit. We got all that taken care of. Now let's ask for lettuce. Execute this. I've asked for lettuce. We're going to cook the burger. Grilling burger. Dressing burger. Boom. What? Oh, what happened? We get the error back in the UI. Get the nice deeply nested call stack. And you can see right here, putting burger back in inventory, 0.5. So the compensation was called because we added that compensation log to the routing slip. We put it back into inventory. Everything is cool. So I'm looking at the chat here. In execute, we would have a cook or pull out of warmer, and then in compensate, we would have a put in warmer kind of methods. Yeah, so now that we know that this works, let's legit this up a little bit. I've used legit 3 times in the last second, so no more saying that. Let's take this a little further and kind of go with that comment because I think that's a key one. So right here where I create the patty, let's extract a nice little business service method for that. And we're going to call this, what do we call it? Cook or pull out of warmer. And what we're going to do with that is basically exactly what we're doing in the other method, but why is it static async? That's hilarious. Okay. So we're going to look at the burger patty we want with the dimensions that we put into it and return it. But before we do the delay to actually cook the patty, now that we have this bag, can you query a bag? I don't honestly know. We're going to do a var existing equals inventory.select inventory.where. Can I do a where against that? I don't know. Where x. Thank you, Link. X dot, come on, resolve, x dot cheese equals context.message.cheese, context.arguments.cheese, and x dot temperature equals context.arguments.temperature. Let's just face it, if it's drive-through, we're going to take whatever we have and throw it on the burger as long as it doesn't have cheese on it. Yeah, we're just going to compare cheese. If it's the same cheese, we're just going to throw it in. We don't care. It's been in the warmer for an hour. We don't really care. Oh yes, refactor that to the nice where version of first or default. If existing is not equal to null, then let's do inventory.remove. Oh, you can't remove from a bag, right? Because it's really just an injector. So let's just do this as a concurrent. Is there a concurrent hash set? I don't want to do a dictionary. That's annoying. Let's just do a hash set. We're gonna really dumb it down here. We're not gonna support concurrency, but we don't care because we're doing this one at a time. Inventory.remove existing. Okay, great. So if we find one that is good to go, it's a record, so can't you just find it through the generated equals? Oh my gosh, you're absolutely right. We probably could, but like I said, we don't care what temperature or weight it is. If it doesn't have cheese on it or has cheese on it, we're going to chuck it in and feed it to the drive-through person. We're going to return the existing patty right away if we don't have to make one. So we're going to be much faster. And we should probably even put a little log statement that said, you know, if we have one, it's going to say, yeah, this is why we didn't use static. We're going to say, using existing nasty patty for order. Context.arguments.order ID. All right. That's uncivilized. All right, we're going to use the nasty patty if we have one. Because it's drive-through, we don't really care. So now we're actually going to put that back into inventory with compensate, which we do here. Great. And then if we have it, we're going to cook or pull it out of the warmer and then add it to the output. Awesome. Now let's try it. So if we go back into the code, we fire it up, it's going to bring up our little browser window. Everything's rocking and rolling. We're going to close this existing one. We're going to try it out. We're going to ask for lettuce, and it's going to be bad because we don't have it. It's going to cook the patty 5 seconds, and then everything is good, except it's not good because we didn't have any lettuce. So let's just jump back in there and say, oh, it's fine, I don't need lettuce. And he's like, oh, okay, well, we'll just go ahead and take that existing burger, and boom, no delay. We pulled that out of inventory. And now if we order it again without lettuce, we're going to have to wait because inventory is empty. So we got to grill a fresh patty. That's like the world's simplest inventory management system, a hash set. So, you know, something to think about there, but yeah. So that is how we do compensations within an activity. We're able, just by changing the type and specifying a log type, and then completing with the log version of the complete with variables method, we're able to add that log information. And by adding to the compensate log, it also adds the compensate address, so it knows which queue to send it to for the compensation. And that's all handled by MassTransit. That's just how it works. The subsequent activity didn't have to know anything about the grill activity. It didn't have to know any of its types because, again, all of that stuff is just in the compensation log. And if we look in here, we should be able to see the using existing nasty patty for order. Awesome. Yep. Okay. So that's how we do compensations within the existing project that we've created. I don't see any other comments or questions in the chat. There was the one comment about if it's a record, can't we just use the generated equals? I don't know. Let's take a diversion and find out. I have no idea if it does or not. So let's just do x equals, oh, well, I don't have an x to compare it to. I have the arguments. I would have to create a patty and then compare it to an existing patty. So I think this is fine, just saying, hey, as long as it's technically as long as it's the right weight and the right cheese variety, I think we're okay. Temperature, we don't care at that point because it's been sitting in the warmer, so it's whatever temperature that is. It should still work. I hope it still works. I'm not going to run it again, but. So this gives us the compensation. We didn't have to change any of our requester. It didn't have to know anything about it. We've tested that our fault handling works in the consumer so that it passes the fault back. If we wanted to pass a better, and this is, I think, the one thing that I find kind of annoying. Our current submit order response model is there. I would almost like to do a try catch on this. And I think it's 8. And if it's a request exception of, I don't know, what is it, when exception.message contains lettuce. I don't know. String comparison, let's just do invariant culture ignore case. If that's the case, then we're going to return, I don't know, unavailable, conflict. Just, we could return a different response type. We could return, what is it, failed, fault? No. What are the return types for a controller? Accepted, conflict, content, created, forbidden, problem. I like problem. Problem is good. Can I return an object? Yeah. I can say that the order ID was jacked. And, oh, maybe not. I guess I can't do that. I was hoping I could pass like a generic type to it, but whatever. I'll just return a problem, say it was bad. I don't think it's a bad request because it's just we were out of something. But anyway, yeah, you would just definitely return a different model. And again, well, I'm just trying to make it so it doesn't display that nasty exception. Because the exception really bothers me that it's this big, thick thing. Now if I come in here and I ask for lettuce, I should get a little bit cleaner shutdown, I would hope. Yeah, now I got a cleaner shutdown that just says I got a 500 server error, couldn't cook your burger or whatever. The nice thing is if I go back and ask for it, it like completes quicker because the burger's back in inventory. I could keep asking for it and they're like, dude, you can't have it. But if I finally come up and say, fine, just don't put lettuce on it, I realize there's a shortage due to, you know, some sort of weird outbreak, then it will eventually complete the order. So that's what I had for today. Hopefully this has been good. We covered a lot. I'll commit this code up and push both of these commits up to the GitHub repo. Good start to the year. We'll see what the weather's like tomorrow. Might be back tomorrow. We'll find out. I've got some interesting stuff coming up. You know, right now we're building the itinerary in the consumer, and I'm going to introduce some abstraction to this in terms of how we format the activity and build the activity. And I think we're going to flesh out the order model a little bit to show how we can move the information from the incoming request type to actually building the itinerary based on the data in that. So that'll give us a little bit more, kind of a couple refactoring episodes where we pull some things out and make it a little more what we would consider production grade. And kind of fit so that when we start adding new things and new activities in, that we aren't just hard coding all this stuff in this consumer. So Thanks for joining. We'll catch you on the next one, and have a great day.